Recently, when Adobe updated Photoshop, they also updated the Generative Fill model. Not only do we have more resolution, but it does a better job of generating things like people. So in this tutorial, we're really going to focus on how well it generates things like people, hands, cars, things it struggled with. And we're also going to look at new features. So let's jump in right now. Today, we're going to look at the improvements inside Generative Fill using the Adobe Firefly model. We're going to focus just on the improvements with this model over the previous model. To see a model, just make a selection, and then you're going to choose Generative Fill from the taskbar, and then where it says FI, you're going to click here, and the model right up to late January 2026 was Firefly Image 3. Late January 2026, we now have Firefly Fill and Expand. This is where you'll change the model. Most of the time, you want to choose the newest model and just work off that. So I'm going to show you comparisons between the previous model and this new model that's been out just for a couple of weeks now. The first thing we want to talk about is resolution. The old model, the resolution was limited to 1K, which is 1024 by 1024 pixels. Let me give you an example. Let's grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to change this to a fixed size, and here's 1024 by 1024. Would be this size here. I'm just going to press Control J or Command J so we can see the size. Now, of course, it doesn't mean we can only generate within this space. It just means this is the maximum amount of pixels it can generate. So we could expand on a much larger space, but what would happen is it would stretch this to fit. In this case, I'm just going to stretch it to here. So if we were generating on an image of this size, which is 5,000 by around 3,000 pixels, this is what it would look like compared to the quality of the original. So if we're selecting larger areas, then these pixels are going to be stretched out to fit those areas. And this is going to result in a loss of resolution, where it looks jaggy and soft. In order to keep the resolution the original, we would not want to expand any larger than this area at a time. So that means if I wanted to change, say, something here and something over here, rather than just doing a large selection like this and then letting it go, because it's going to stretch it across there, we would have to work in smaller pieces. Now the resolution has been increased. Instead of 1K, it's now 2K, which is 2048 by 2048. And you can see we can now work in a much larger area without having to worry about loss of resolution. Let me copy this and stretch it. Okay, so while this is still losing a little bit of resolution and starting to look a little bit soft, compared to 1K, look at how much better the quality looks there versus here. So notice at 2K, we don't have to stretch it so much to fill that space. And notice it doesn't soften the image as much as this one that needs to be stretched more. So this now means we can do things like extend our image. Let's grab the crop tool. We're going to do Generative Expand. And let's crop it up. And hit enter to apply. And we can now see it's not really noticeable where we've extended it because the resolution is a lot better than what it was. Now, if we zoom in really close and pixel peep, we can see the grain structure starts to fall apart here. But this is 173%. So this is definitely an improvement. Yes, we'd still like to see more resolution, but this is really starting to become more workable now. Definitely for multimedia purposes. Not quite there for large print projects yet. Okay, let's talk about the cost of these in Generative Credits. I'm going to do another video where I explain Generative Credits in detail. But if you want to know how much each model is going to cost, all we need to do is roll over Generate. The standard generative feature, which is what we're doing here, is going to use 1 credit per generation. That 1 credit includes the 3 variations. And no, if you don't like what you get, you can't refund it. But remember, each of these credits is like half a penny. Okay, so that's Firefly 3. If we look at the new model, yes, it's unchanged. It's still 1 credit per generation. So here's an interesting thing. When we go down and we look at things like Nano Banana, if we use the Gemini 2.5 Nano Banana, we roll over, we can see that this is going to use 10 credits. If we use the Nano Banana Pro, this is 40 credits. It's the most expensive generation inside of Photoshop. But remember, this is still like 20 cents or something like that. Okay, but here is one that's underrated. Flex 2 Pro. This works so well. This one uses 20 credits. It's half as much as Nano Banana. But it's gotten a lot better. And one of the areas Adobe claims to have improved is generating people. So we're going to choose Generative Fill. And then we're going to use the old Firefly 3 model. And in the prompt we're going to use full body adult person standing, casual clothing, neutral pose, realistic proportions, studio lighting, photorealistic. And now we're going to generate. Okay, so we can see the result here. This first one is not very good at all. Look at this. The face looks very weird, looks very soft in spite of the lack of resolution. It's just not good. Let's look at the second variation. Okay. Cartoony, soft, very unrealistic. Let's look at the third variation. It's a little bit better, but still lacking detail and looking a little cartoony. Let's do the same thing again. Select the entire image. By the way, Control A or Command A will do that. This time we're going to choose Generative Fill. We're going to change the model to Firefly Fill and Expand. Let's put that same prompt in, and now we're going to generate. And here's the result. Okay, this is definitely looking a lot more realistic. By the way, we're generating on 1920 by 1080, which is full HD. So this is still double resolution of the old model, but the resolution of the new model now fills this whole space, which is great. Okay, so let's have a look at the second variation. Oh, much more realistic. Third variation. Okay, his hands and thumbs are huge, but the face is definitely looking better. I think out of the 3, this one here looks quite realistic. I think you would be hard-pressed to tell this from an actual photograph. All right, so why don't we try something a little bit more difficult with the people this time? Let's select everything. We're going to choose Generative Fill. This time I'm going to do a prompt. We're going to do full adult person standing, outdoor clothing, explorer style, realistic anatomy, cinematic lighting, photorealistic, and environment is in the jungle. So we're actually going to give an environment as well instead of just a plain background. So we're going to put that prompt in, and we're going to start with Firefly 3, and we're now going to generate. Okay, here we go. This does not look realistic at all. Let's do the second variation. I think that's worse. Third variation. This is using the old Firefly 3 model. Let's do this again. This time we're going to use the new Firefly Fill and Expand model. Definitely a lot better. As far as photorealistic, I wouldn't call it photorealistic, but it certainly looks a lot more realistic than the previous one. Let's have a look at the second. That looks quite realistic. His face looks good. His arms look a little cartoony though. And his shirt is definitely looking a little cartoony, but the proportions and everything are looking pretty good. Let's have a look at the third variation. Once again, still a little cartoony, but definitely a huge improvement. So here's something that AI has traditionally struggled with, generating hands. This is the previous version number 3. Yeah, not very realistic. We've got all the fingers though. Second variation, way too much texture, but still showing proper anatomy. Third variation, yeah, but still very illustrative looking. And the prompt to use here is realistic human hand, natural relaxed pose, correct finger anatomy, 5 fingers, photorealistic, sharp focus, soft studio lighting. Alright, let's see how Fill and Expand, the new model, did. This is better, but it still does look a little soft and waxy, lacking some detail. Second variation. Third variation. This is probably the best, but the hair looks a little strange. It's not perfect. The anatomy is definitely very good. And I feel like this one has a little not enough detail, whereas the previous model has too much detail. But this definitely looks more realistic. Except for looking like the digits here are kind of glued on, like this was some kind of a clay sculpture or something. Look at them, look like little knobs on the end. Interesting. Something I've always found that Firefly does not do well is cars. So let's go ahead and we're going to do a prompt. Urban street with cars, realistic perspective, natural lighting, modern buildings, street level view, realistic traffic, photorealistic. And image model number 3. Okay. These look like we just had a massive car crash. Does look a little bit like downtown LA though. In fact, I used to live in a building that looked quite similar to this, but not mangled. Let's look at the second variation. Okay, still not great, but there's no recognizable make or model of cars here. They're just strange cars. Here we have a limousine with 6 wheels. Interesting. Yeah, not good at all. Okay, so let's try this on the new model. This is definitely better. I can see this is supposed to be like maybe a Prius or something, maybe a Honda. Although I don't know why it has a rear view mirror on the back as well. But it's got the right amount of wheels. It's definitely looking better. Not very sharp though. Here's a second variation. Okay, this is better. And these start to look a little bit like actual cars that do exist. Let's look at the third variation. Don't know why I decided to do all of these out of focus, but that's fine. Not as good as Nano Banana or Flux by a long way, or even Midjourney, but it's certainly an improvement on what it was. And outside of the resolution, I would say the most standout new feature inside of Generative Fill right now is using the reference image. So check out my tutorial here on exactly how to do it. Now drop a comment right now and let me know your thoughts. How far do you think it's come? How far has it got to go? I think it's come a long way, but it can still get better. But I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comments underneath. And if you're new, welcome to the cafe. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and then you won't miss any of my weekly tutorials. And by the way, whenever I do a tutorial, the written steps are also on my website at photoshopcafe.com. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.